Hello, I'm Diane Summers, here on Literature 365, where we bring you in-depth analysis of famous literary works. Today, on Literature 365, we will be discussing the story of Victor Frankenstein in and outside the eyes of Mary Shelley. Frankenstein's narrative begins with accounts of his ancestry and the events of his early childhood. Here, we have an interview with Victor Frankenstein's father, Alphonse, with his personal account.
Thank you, Diane. I'm here with Alphonse Frankenstein to find out the details of young Victor's life. So, tell us a bit about you.
Thank you, Gloria. Well, I'm from a Genovese family who was rather distinguished in the Republic, I must say. I myself have held jobs of honor and reputation, and I've also been told that I have characteristics of integrity and I'm infatigable to public business.
Interesting. How was your life before Victor was born?
Yes, my younger days were spent in the affairs of the country. Certain things had prevented me from marrying early. In fact, it wasn't until my later years was it that I became a husband and a father. I recall one of my closest friends, Beaufort was his name, a man who once had success, yet unfortunately he fell to misery and passed shortly after. This is how I met Beaufort's daughter, however, Caroline, whom I have married and adore greatly.
Intriguing. I hear you and Caroline have been on some trips to Italy and beyond. Tell us about your trips.
Oh, how could I have forgotten the lovely places Italy, Germany, and France. And of course my beloved son Victor was born in Naples. Yes, Victor was the top priority in our lives at the time. Caroline had always wanted a daughter, and one of my excursions alone to Milan, I returned home to find a heavenly child who Victor was enchanted by.
What was Victor like as a child? Could you see his interest in knowledge from an early age?
Victor's childhood was true bliss. His relationship with Elizabeth blossomed throughout the years. Victor was a very curious child. He loved research and investigating nature. At times, however, he was violent in his desire to learn. Yes, we could see his interest in science as he studied intensely day after day and until his departure to the University of Ingolstadt.
Very intriguing. Thank you, Alphonse, for being with us today and all of your insight into Victor's life.
Thank you, Gloria. Alphonse's interview correlates with Frankenstein's details in Mary Shelley's writing. However, what we find in Chapter 3 of her novel shares the start to borderline obsessive passion for natural philosophy. Let's see if our interview with Victor's very own Professor M. Walden agrees.
I'm here today with Professor M. Waldman. I'd like to ask you a few questions. What did you see in Victor that separated him from all of your other students?
I saw that Victor had immense potential to thrive in his zealous interest for intelligence. The day he came to visit me, I immediately became aware that he would be of great success if he held his act together and expanded his knowledge to its greatest capacity.
Had you any idea that Victor's studies had become almost an obsession?
Victor was definitely greatly gifted in his brilliance, and also a promising student. However, on that same day he spoke to me. I also viewed a young man with pride in his knowledge, and that he would spend many hours in solitude in deep studies. This could have been signs of his progressive, obsessive, and ultimately his failure.
Peculiar. Concerning Professor M. Krempe, what do you feel Victor admired about you as a mentor?
Well, Professor M. Krempe is rather quick to draw conclusions and seemed to belittle Victor's early studies. I, on the contrary, explained to Victor that his early studies may have been in some aspects incorrect and aged, but the alchemists and authors he studied provided the basis for much of the natural philosophy of today.
Were you aware that the advice and assistance you gave him to focus on natural philosophy could have led to his malpractice?
I feel that perhaps my guidance aided his advancement in knowledge of the kind, yet was ultimately his own extremity that led to him discovering things that none other had before.
Well, thanks for your insight, Waldman. Back to you, Diane.
Thanks, Gloria. Throughout all first 3 chapters in Shelley's novel, the main ideas prevalent are Frankenstein's development of relationships between family, friends, and even professors. along with the beginning to his tragic desire for omniscience. Now let's hear from Suzanne Autumns with the Mood Cast.
Thanks, Diane. Let's take a closer look at the tone and mood of the first 3 chapters of the novel. In Chapter 1, the tone of Victor's narration begins in slight pride of his father's success, yet ends in blissful joy towards the adoption of Elizabeth. The reader feels a sense of pity for Alphonse's friend Buford and his failure, yet at the end glee towards Elizabeth's character. In Chapter 2, the mood felt by the reader is curious about Victor's interest for knowledge and unsure of how this will lead to his misery, as seen on page 24, when he describes, "I also record those events which led to my insensible steps to my aftertale of misery." In Chapter 3, a tone and mood of sorrow when Victor's mother dies is at first felt. However, the tone changes to optimism when Victor takes off for college, beginning his new life. The reader feels the same questioning towards Victor's obsessiveness of study. Wait, what's this? Breaking news! Victor Frankenstein himself has been spotted in Fernie, Texas! Let's go get a live interview! Victor Frankenstein!
What?
Can we ask you some questions about your past?
Why, I suppose.
Thank you. Okay, so, tell us what sparked your interest for natural science.
I believe it was the day I witnessed the destruction of a tree by the hands of lightning of a terrible thunderstorm. A man of great research explained to us a theory of electricity, and thus my attention was engaged in natural philosophy.
Wow! Now, as far as your relations with Elizabeth and Henry, what drew you together despite your contrasts in personality?
Our diverse personalities themselves must have pulled us together. Elizabeth was peaceful, and I was capable of intense application to knowledge. Henry enjoyed poetry and romances, where I admired mathematics and science.
Well said. How did college change your outlook on your future?
Ingolstadt and my truly beloved professors led me into different paths of study that I may have never entered without their guidance. Without their influences, I may have never desired the discovery of recreation of life. I mean my own theories.
In Shelley's novels, she frequently mentions the misery and failure your early studies caused. Explain.
At the time of my studying, I hoped to be working for the good of others. However, I later discovered that my intents became ineffective and a burden on me and my loved ones.
Thank you, Frankenstein, for your time. It was unbelievable to have found you.
Yes, quite.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Suzanne. Wow! What an astonishing interview. Victor Frankenstein himself. Anywho, this concludes our segment for today. Thanks for watching as we analyze Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, in and outside the eyes of Mary Shelley. Tune in next week to Literature 365 as we discuss Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. See you next time!